The only good thing in junior high is that the seasons are still fairly short.
I think it's over like not by Christmas, but
They're shortly
pretty
after.
much. Yeah, it's like it's different than the high school. Obviously, high school doesn't start till
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, and
You get the overlap.
yeah,
There was always the kind of what you're saying a little bit, but in baseball, high school baseball, we'd have a couple of basketball guys. If they made a run, they'd be late to get into baseball
or
and
the
everything.
state championship football. If they go to the state, that's Thanksgiving weekend. You're missing the start of basketball.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
which happens at some of the smaller schools, especially.
It's different in some states too. Like Missouri high school baseball is a sprint.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally like spring break.
Florida, Texas, California, it's year round. I mean,
even we would go play like Arkansas schools,
Mhm.
and we'd be playing them like our second weekend of the season, and they're 20 games in,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, we've been playing for a month and a half, guys.
Yeah.
So it's different everywhere you go.
The other thing that's kind of weird about middle school, junior high is, at least if I think I'm correct on this, the girls have volleyball in the fall. Of course, they have basketball, and then they have softball in the spring. And then when they get to high school, most high schools, volleyball and softball are fall sports. So you got to choose one.
You got to pick.
So you can't, it's kind of, I'm not sure how.
Unless you go to one of the really, really small schools where they have 15.
And there are some schools that play spring softball, but it's very few. So.
I've never understood how people do that though. I knew a kid, he was a Marshfield kid that was a four sport letterman, and he played baseball and golf in the spring. I never understood how guys were able to do that.
There's one of the best players on this volleyball team that my daughter played on is a standout golfer, like competes in junior tournaments already. I mean, she's in 7th grade and really, 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 really good. Actually played in in our women's pro-am a couple years ago. But
oh, really?
Anyway, she, girls golf is a fall sport. So is volleyball.
Yeah.
Can she do both? I have no idea. So
yeah, it changes so quick. And I don't know, maybe there's a shift happening again, back to the multi-sport athletes. Whenever I was coming through,
it's been a big push, it seems like, of late, of
playing multiple sports. Yeah, because I think naturally, for whatever cause, the individual specialize, play it year round. And like, kind of like you were saying, especially with baseball, I know kids who travel south during the winter.
Yeah.
That's after they play fall ball, and so there's sports like that. AAU basketball in the summer, you can play them year round. I was a part of that generation where you grew up seeing a lot of like, oh, he's a 3-sport athlete. He's a big, whatever. And then when I got into high school,
there was very, very, I don't even remember the word specialization when I was in high school. I mean, everybody played sports, just whatever we had lots of 3-sport standouts. We had 2-sport standouts.
Yeah.
We had some guys that played a sport, but it wasn't because they were specializing. It was, but you have to realize there was no travel ball back then. I mean, it was just not a big thing at all.
Yeah.
That's I would say a fairly recent occurrence.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say in my graduating class, I can think of like 2 3-sport athletes. And they're usually anymore. They're not your typical football, basketball, baseball.
Yeah.
It's always like they throw in a golf in there
or track, and
or they run.
Big.
Yeah. And some or soccer, maybe they play soccer instead of football. I don't know. Maybe it is coming back. Maybe the multi-sport athlete thing is becoming more prominent. I've always been a big, I
think I think most doctors would tell you, or whatever the doctors are that deal in such things, they would tell you that it's actually better for you, especially growing up and still developing, to play multiple sports so that you're using different muscles and in different ways and develop them properly. But
yeah, well, and I could give you any, like, you want to specialize in football? Okay, wrestle in the winter to get more physical. And then run track so you can work on your speed in the spring. Yeah. There's always 100%. Things like that. Yeah. Go, if you play basketball, go jump.
I've heard multiple offensive line coaches say that the best thing you can do in the offseason is wrestle.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all about leverage. It's all about technique. It's all about, it's discipline. It's everything. So.
There's huge overlap. I mean, and being a baseball guy like I was, I've always been a big proponent of it because it's just hand-eye coordination.
Yeah.
That's just like, that's pure athleticism. If you work on that, it's just going to carry over to other things. You're just going to find yourself understanding how to move your body more, so I don't know.
So you were out there with the chopsticks, Mr. Miyagi and the fly, probably trying to catch a fly.
I was I was a guy in baseball.
Beginner luck.
I was a guy in baseball. The only reason I was ever any good was just because I was like, I loved hitting in the cage. I didn't care if there wasn't anybody there. I would go just set up the tee, just take some. I just loved hitting baseballs, loved the feel. Like you get the feedback where you just square one up, you don't hardly feel anything. Like I just loved that, and I always loved it. I would. So what I did when I was in high school is I always played football, always played baseball. I wrestled coming up, and then by the time I got into junior high, kind of knew baseball was my ticket, but loved the sport of football more than anything. Just found myself having more success in baseball, so I would play football. You'd get done right around Thanksgiving, a little before, and then I would just use the winter time to get ready for
winter
baseball.
Conditioning,
yeah. I would do arm strengthening, stuff like that, lift a little bit. But I always thought it gave me an upper hand because a lot of guys were like, they didn't think about baseball till after the first of the year, kind of, or even when it started kind of getting warm. So I was like, I'm gonna get swings in. Like this is where like you make strides past people. So that was always my thing. But who knows? Double up on the seasons. Now, what grade is Turner
in? He is in 5th grade. Last year at the old intermediate school, then heads off to middle school. So
something we never talked about on here. You just talked about going to do you call it intermediate school? Junior high?
In Bolivar, you have primary school, which is kindergarten, 1st and 2nd. Then they go to the intermediate school, which is 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Middle school 6 through 8, and high school is 9 through 12.
Yeah.
Now, in Indianapolis, when I was growing up, it was K through 5. Middle school was 6 through 8, and then high school.
Gotcha.
So we didn't have that second school.
Gotcha. No, one of the cool things I saw, and it was back here a while back when it was still pretty warm, that Bolivar did, what was really cool, was the outdoor volleyball match.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
In the park, I didn't watch it, but I dropped off Brighton to, obviously the junior high or middle school volleyball team wanted to go and probably more for the social aspect. But so I dropped them off and I was kind of blown away. I was like, oh, well, this is, kind of, niche or whatever. And it was really cool. I mean, they had the spotlights and it was a full blown volleyball match. And there was people had about rotten lawn chairs. There was, they were selling concessions, had like the icy machines or the shaved ice type stuff and concessions. That's really cool. It was a really neat deal.
Yeah.
I just remember seeing Bolivar's PR. I don't know what the communications guy. They have a drone that they use, which I mean most schools do. But and I saw he had done a drone, like an overview of it. And it was pretty cool from the air as well. So it was neat.
Bradenburg,
which is kind of yeah. He's doing a great job. It's kind of becoming a thing. I mean, like obviously, I think it was Nebraska that played a volleyball game at the football, 90,000 or whatever it was to watch a volleyball game. Of course, I think Iowa women's basketball played a basketball game outdoors with Caitlin Clark when she was there. It's just becoming. You've had the outdoor winter classic in hockey with the NHL always does an outdoor game, which is not as big a deal. It's an outdoor sport, I guess, or started outdoors, but becoming a thing.
The first time I think I'd seen it at the high school level is I had seen some wrestling duels.
Okay.
And they were just in the parking lot.
Yeah.
You don't need ample lighting necessarily, I think, for wrestling. So just the parking lot lights were sufficient. So that's the first time I'd seen it. And maybe it was just practice. Maybe it wasn't even duels.
Well, and I think this Bolivar, I think it was an intra-squad scrimmage,
oh, okay,
if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I don't think it was a match against another school. I think it was kind of like a
Yeah.
Blue and gold game or something.
Yeah.
So,
well, you know what this reminds me of, though? The first time I remember seeing stuff like this, and I wish they'd bring it back, is when they started having the college basketball games, like they did the one on the
aircraft carrier in San Diego.
I still think to this day that's one of the coolest sporting events.
North Carolina and somebody.
Michigan State.
Yeah, it was Michigan. I think it was Michigan. Maybe it was Michigan State, but
yeah,
that was weird. But
you know what I mean? Just one of those one-off things where you're like, why is this? We got to bring this back.
I've heard the expression, he couldn't chuck it in the ocean. Well,
you can. Yeah.
Almost could.
You could from there. No, that's just like anytime they're doing it with, they're doing it with hockey.
Mhm.
They're doing, and I don't know how they do that unless it's just they
Yeah.
wait till it gets really cold outside.
Yeah.
I just think it's really cool to
Well,
do that.
and then they had Notre Dame played a game in Yankee Stadium,
Yeah.
kind of like, I think Northwestern played in Wrigley Field once. I mean, it's just kind of that cross promotion, gimmicky type stuff.
Well, and some of those are official bowl games. I don't know if they still are.
Yeah, the Pinstripe Bowl.
The Pinstripe Bowl as they play in Yankee Stadium. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's just unique to have that from time to time. And it's only, like for baseball, you couldn't do it, right? Mm-hmm. You got to play on a baseball diamond.
Yeah.
But for those other sports that are more, finite, that can do that, I just think it's really, really neat.
But I'm old enough to remember NFL games played in baseball stadiums during baseball season.
With
so
dirt.
Oakland Raiders and Oakland A's, you got the football field, and then you can see the diamond, on there. I think Atlanta was the same way. The Falcons played at the same stadium, and I remember, seeing those. So now it's all, single purpose use stadiums for the most part.
Old Candlestick.
Yes.
Was that a football? Yeah, or baseball?
Baseball and football they shared.
Yeah.
But that's the way it was back then. I mean, you had one stadium in a city and everybody shared it. Now, of course, everybody wants their own.
Oh yeah. I think the best, and this deals with some movement of teams and everything. The best example of that now is in Oakland, right? Where you had the basketball arena and then the football baseball combo all there.
I remember leaving. We went to an A's game. It's been 10, 12 years ago, and leaving. And then I think at the time it was Oracle Arena, maybe.
Yeah,
it was
I think so.
Right there across the street from the baseball stadium.
But in 2018, 2019, you had 3 teams that played right there in that.
Well, Kansas City, I mean, Arrowhead and Kauffman Stadium are right in that same the Truman Sports Complex. So
well, and I had seen something online. I was up there at the Monday night game here the week before before this last, and I had seen where if the Royals had won a few. Like it was like 2 or 3 more games at the end of the regular season, they had a chance, given some playoff, happenings, that they could have hosted a game on that Monday night.
Oh wow.
And I'm sitting there thinking that sport complex could not have handled that.
It would have been
busting at the seams. I have no idea how that would have even happened, but it never came to fruition. But what a season for the Royals, though.
It was outstanding. Certainly. I mean, I'm not a baseball aficionado and stay up with it, day to day. But I mean, I don't know that I was expecting at the beginning of the season for that to happen. And I think obviously Bobby Witt Jr. is a superstar in the making. Future MVP most likely. I think he even won the batting title this year, if I'm not mistaken.
He might have.
I think he did.
He had over 200 hits. I know that.
And they're just it was cool to see.
Yeah.
So
did I tell you about my shout out that I had?
I don't recall hearing about your shout out.
Solo episode that I had back in May. It was episode 4 from this season.
Okay.
I was like, it's early in the baseball season, but I'm telling you right now, the Royals could make a wild card.
Okay.
Well, Called it out. I got lucky. But I think at the time, what spurred me to say that is the Cardinals were off to a slow start.
Have you ever heard the expression, if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, did it actually was? Is that what happened with your?
Probably
the only person that heard it was.
Yeah, I got to run back the tape. That's the only way anybody will know.
Listeners to that podcast episode.
There's a huge increase. Have you seen in the viewership for the MLB playoffs this year? It's like an 18% increase. And I tell you
wonder why that is.
I don't know, but I feel like there's been a lot more suspense. There's been a lot more action. I just feel like there's been so many times where, I don't know, maybe I've been watching the football game and then I flip over to a baseball game and I see a huge play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I don't know if that's just luck, if it's just chance. It just seems like there's been a lot of action this postseason.
Obviously Kansas City won game 2 in New York, and if their bullpen would have even been competent in game 1 and not walk 5 batters in an inning, walk 2 runs in, maybe they win 2 in New York and they're playing the Tigers. Who knows? But baseball is, I will say that, I don't watch 162 games, but playoff baseball is some of the most suspenseful
Yeah.
Stuff, especially getting those late innings and relief pitchers and big hits and 2 outs and 2 strikes and just it's very suspenseful.
For sure. I don't know what the series looks like right now. We're just now in the championship series. I think we're on a crash course for the Yankees and the Dodgers.
That's kind of you could probably go ahead and predict that next year too, and the year after that, and the year after that, and the year after that.
That is one thing I hate about baseball is just the gap.
Despise the lack of a salary cap. I just hate the fact that a handful of teams can spend $1 billion if they want to and just buy all the talent, and then you have the small market. I mean, it is what it is, but
yeah.
And then people say, "Well, Kansas City made the playoffs." Well, 1 year out of how many, and you got the Dodgers and Yankees in there every year. So whatever.
Yeah. It's always
get off my lawn.
It is, but then I think it does make it more special sometimes when you get like the Detroit Tigers that make a run and all of that. But yeah, I will agree with you. I think if that's what you're looking at, a Yankees Dodgers, you're gonna have the baseball purists that love it, and then you're gonna have a lot of people that are like.
I compare it to football. The most popular sport in America by far, not even a close second, is the NFL. And yes, you've got teams that are year in and year out. You have your big market teams, but the New York teams aren't dominating. The LA teams aren't dominant. Who's the number 1 team in football? It's Kansas City Chiefs. Why? Yeah. Because they've built properly. They've got good coaching. Yeah. Obviously, it helps to have a generational superstar at quarterback, but they draft well. They've got a young defense that they've built. I look at Houston. Houston was a doormat 4 years ago. I mean, they were just, barely win 2 or 3 games, and they kept building, and they took their number 1 draft pick, and they took their number 1 draft pick year after year. And finally they drafted a potential superstar quarterback. And now here they are, and they're one of the top 4 teams in the AFC and going to run away with the AFC South. So it's my point being is that you're never completely out of it unless you're the Cleveland Browns, and
we're not going to go there. We're not going to go that. Well, and to that point, you got to draft right. And it's interesting though, because you see variation across sports, right? So how often are you seeing rookie quarterbacks starting now, right? And how often are these young guys in the NFL that come and make a splash? Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson.
Well, you also have to sign key free agents. You can't just go out and buy the 6 quote unquote best players because you have a salary cap and you can't go over it. And so it prohibits teams from just throwing money at the problem. Dallas Cowboys and the Raiders used to be like that as well. And it's a parity driven league, and that's why it's the most popular sport on the planet, is because I think that your team is never 100% out of it. Yeah. And there's a reason there's an any given Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any team can beat anybody on any given Sunday.
Now, did you see the breaking news on Tuesday? Wide receiver, Devontae Adams?
Yes.
Going to the Jets. Yeah. Yeah, which they just had a loss on Monday Night Football to the Bills, which I thought was a pretty winnable game for them because 1, they were at home. 2, the Bills defense was a little banged up, and still yet the Bills found a way to win. And I don't even think the Bills are. I don't think the Bills are the Bills of normal.
At one point, I'm shocked, honestly, surprised a little bit that speaking of, Kansas City needing a receiver, probably that's one spot that could really solidify them as virtually unbeatable, is a key, receiver with I think Rice is out for a little while. And
there was rumor of, it was Amari Cooper.
Yeah. Well, because I had heard Devontae Adams was, and then there was a couple things that had happened with the Jets and somebody else that were kind of the front runners. I think somebody lost a quarterback, and so that kind of knocked them down. And but here we are, the Jets bringing them in.
I'm not surprised. Aaron Rodgers reunion right there with Devontae Adams. They're obviously going to have.
I wonder also, this is a week after the Jets fire their coach right in the middle of the season.
Yeah,
you wonder if Devontae Adams would be there, if Robert Saleh, whatever. Saleh, if he was still there. So,
I
don't know.
Sometimes I gotta be careful with what I say. I always kind of question what kind of locker room guy Aaron Rodgers is too.
That had a lot of outsider looking in. It looks like Rodgers kind of was instrumental in that happening, because most teams don't fire their coach 4 or 5 games into the season. So
you would think, right? But
it was also apparent that those two didn't get along, at least outwardly.
if I'm a GM, I don't care how many MVPs you've won, how many Super Bowls you've won. If you are 40 something years old, right? I'm probably not going to let you determine some of the long-term, decisions that we make as an organization. That's just me, right? Obviously, they're not going to be too upset about getting Devontae Adams. But I think that the Jets' problems that they're dealing with right now, internally, on the field, off the field, whatever have you, I think it goes well beyond just the talent that you've got in the room, the skill position guys that you have. I think they've got some pretty good young guys that, if you just get the ball in their hand, and I just think it's more of a scheme thing right now. And probably more than that, I think it's maybe just kind of a mantra thing, just kind of how they're going about their business. Because, like I said, the Bills are not the Bills are not the Bills they usually are.
I don't. I think the Bills window was the 13-second season that the Chiefs come back. I think that may have broken the Bills, and they've been kind of on a downward spiral ever since that game. So,
yeah. And then you think of that though, and you think, man, the Kansas City Chiefs are still on the ride. I mean, it's just. I think I said it last week. It's like watching them.
You mean the New England Patriots?
Yeah, no, honestly. It's just so crazy to me to have seen the turnaround that they've had as an organization.
The thing about this that should scare the rest of the league is the Chiefs are 5 or 6-0, whatever it is, and haven't played even remotely their best football at all.
Yeah.
And can only get better. Have had injuries everywhere, and yet still find a way to win games. And I mean, how hard is it? The 1972 Miami Dolphins, every year when the last team loses, and so there's obviously no undefeated teams, they meet and they pop champagne and celebrate the fact that they're the last unbeaten team.
Yeah.
They may be waiting a while this year.
And how hard is it to win games in the NFL? And there's teams that go out there, don't play their best brand of football, and are still undefeated.
Yeah.
Who are the Chiefs are still undefeated?
I think it's Minnesota, maybe.
Minnesota's still undefeated. There might be.
I think that's it.
I think that's it. All right.
I think that's it.
We'll see. Did you see my new fact checker here?
Oh, you got a fact checker.
That way we can. Okay. Is that against the rules of the podcast?
No. We can fact check live.
You been watching any?
Nope.
High school football? No high school football.
I mean, I go to home games. I mean, I don't go. I live in Bolivar, so I go to when they play at home. It seems it's weird. Things like they've only had like 2 home games. I know that's not right, but
really,
they've got one this Friday and the next Friday. I think they finished with 2 home games back to back.
Are we already to the final 2 weeks of the regular season here?
I think so, because the 19th is Friday, and then the 26th, and then I think the first Friday in November is the first round of districts, which is technically the 10th game of the season for everybody.
Yeah, we got a big game Friday night. Not really a big game, but my alma mater, Ozark, playing their rival, undefeated Nixa Eagles.
Good luck with that.
Did you see Jackson Cantwell? Little receiving touchdown? Is that not crazy?
Vikings are 5-0, and then the Chiefs. That's it.
Yeah, you are correct. Yeah, that's what I was fact checking. You look at common opponents between Nixa Ozark. Looks bad. Looks rough.
Nixa is not getting touched in Southwest Missouri, and I mean, I think that they are legitimately built for a state title run. I mean, there's there's some legit football being played in Class 6 across the state, but I think Nixa's certainly capable of it.
I'll go back to that touchdown pass that Cantwell had for a second.
I saw him shouting out college coaches, "Hey, and if there's any tight end coaches out there want to give me a shout."
Oh, seriously. He's so big already. Yeah. He's so developed already. He'd have to cut weight to go to tight end now. No. The defenders on that play, he was in space. I say this kind of jokingly. They did not want any piece of him.
That's what they call it, a business decision.
Yeah.
They made a business decision.
No, I mean, gosh, could you imagine just 6'6"? I mean,
even going at his, they teach you on the big guy to go to the thigh and take out the legs. Goodness, you're gonna get. It's like throwing yourself in front of a semi that's barreling down. I mean, you're gonna get trampled.
Yeah.
And so anyway.
Yeah. I think outside of Nixa, I think there's been quite a bit of parity. There haven't been a lot of other teams that have been able to.
Nixa, obviously they've got talent and everything, but I've been impressed. I don't know if it's his 3rd, 4th, 5th, whatever year, but John Perry, their coach, came, I think, from Mississippi when he came up. I've been very impressed with him, just watching from afar. he seems like an awesome coach, an awesome guy, someone that you want to play for. Obviously, get some coached up, so to speak.
Yeah.
But been very impressed with him.
I really think, too, kind of relating this back to what we were saying about the Jets, I think in terms of his coaching style, he just gets buy-in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He builds a culture that's conducive to winning, and he just gets guys through his system that want to play for him, want to win for him.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good place to be, especially when you're talking about this level, high school athletics.
I think it's cool. I think whoever was the number one player in class of 26 recently reclassified to 25. And so Jackson Cantwell is now the official number one recruit in the country.
Is he really?
In the class of 26, which is kind of cool. I think the last time that's happened around here was Dorial Green Beckham back in like 2011 or 12.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, I actually got to go to DGB's signing. This is back when you did it live on ESPN and stuff. And so that was kind of neat to actually, be sitting there and then all of a sudden you can tell when ESPN comes in live, the lights come on and stuff. But anyway,
that is cool. I was looking up, I was trying to keep up here on some of the state ranked teams we've got in the southwest part of the state.
I think class 2 or 3 of Fairgrove and Fairgrove and Lamar on a collision course as usual. I think Fairgrove may be number 1. Marionville, I think, undefeated in class 1, still defending state champion.
Correct.
They haven't lost since 2022, I think it is. So.
Correct. You've also got Ash Grove down there, class 1.
Yep.
Class 3, you've got a couple of them as well. Seneca, class 3, Seneca, undefeated Stratford as well. I wasn't aware of that.
I did not realize.
I'd have to look and see who they've played.
I didn't realize they were undefeated.
They're one of those teams that their schedule maybe has changed up a little bit with some of the conference realignment.
Yeah.
But
I know
still,
that they, not by mid-teens, they were a powerhouse. They didn't. Yeah. They always ran into like Mountain View Liberty in the playoffs back in that time, Mountain Grove, those teams, but they were always a high flying, high scoring team back in the teens, and it's kind of like their purple rival to the west or north, Fairgrove. They kind of swapped, and now Fairgrove's kind of the perennial, and Fairgrove's athletic program is on fire right now.
Yeah, they do
boys and girls.
Yeah, they've been having a lot of success here for the last few years, really.
Yeah.
Last year,
girls were volleyball and basketball state champions.
Right.
Football was undefeated most of the season. I think they lost to Lamar on Lamar's way to another state title. But Fairgrove's number 1 right now. So.
Everybody wants to talk about the south side suburbs there in Springfield, north side, right there.
Tell you what, the north, out to the east, eastern Greene County, northeast Greene County. So. Yeah.
Class 5, you've also got 6-1 Carthage. Their only loss coming to Nixa. Solid squad right there. And then Class 5 Branson 7-0 in the Ozark. I think they're solely to the Ozark Mountain right there.
They I think have all but sewn up it's not official. I think they have to win officially Friday, but they came up and beat Bolivar early in the season, week 3, something like that. It was like 35-0 at halftime. It could have been a lot worse. They were really good.
They've had, I think they've had not only undefeated, I think they've had turbo clock victories in just about every single game.
They were impressive.
They have a little bit, what helps them compared to Carthage, they have a little bit better district that they've been placed in. There's Republic that I know of off the top of my head.
That's the only.
But other than that, I think it's a winnable district, right? And I couldn't tell you the last time.
I would go ahead and even predict right now that Branson Republic are going to play for the district championship.
Yeah, just as long as the seeding works out, I would agree with that totally. But
now, obviously, anything can happen, and I'm not trying to offend Willard or Parkview or whoever else is in that district. But
I think it's like Glendale, Parkview's probably
just based on. I just think they're on a collision course for a district championship.
It's just eye test. I mean, it's just we'll see. I get excited for high school playoff football. Do you like the format that they have currently, where your week 10 game you're automatically in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, there used to be years ago the points system, and you play 10 games, and then you go based on points and stuff.
Yeah.
So I do like it. Everybody's guaranteed 10 games a season.
Yeah.
Your last game is kind of the beginning of I know that in Missouri they don't call it the state playoffs, but it's the tournament essentially.
Yeah.
And so I like it. I mean, I'm fine with it.
It changed.
I like the fact that it's kind of the point system's not perfect, but you get credit for playing up, so to speak.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think it's pretty good.
They changed it in 2012. I think it's been in place for a while now.
Yeah, I remember doing an article on it when I was doing the Ozark Preps Illustrated magazine. I remember doing an article about the new point system, and so it would have been around 2012ish, somewhere in that time frame.
I think that part of me likes it. Yes, part of me though, sometimes I wish that you had more ability for non-conference games in high school football. I don't think you'll ever see them expand it. I don't think they'll ever go to a 12-game schedule. I just don't think it'll happen.
I mean, I think it's fine. I just remember hearing, it seems like years and years ago, like the top 2 teams in something district or something like that advanced. And there were times when there were 3 unbeaten teams. And so an unbeaten team didn't get to go play or have a chance to compete for a, and so that's not right.
You do that. Yeah. And that does kind of get rid of that in the sense that like
everybody gets a shot.
You've got a chance. You can make a run. Right. And we do see like Republic beat Webb at Webb here and then makes a run, So
when I was growing up in Indiana, football was the only sport that had classes.
Oh, really?
At the time, that every other sport was single class. Everybody, I mean, that's where the movie Hoosiers comes from. The upset, the small school beating the big school. And it was probably the late 90s. They switched to classes and everything. But football was the only one that had classes. So can you imagine, baseball, you're this little tiny school and you're going up against these big, I mean, it was, I can see arguments for both. I mean, it gives everybody a legitimate shot, I guess, but
there's still some smaller sports in Missouri that there's only like 2 classifications, I think.
Swimming is one of them.
Yeah, tennis, I think, is only 2 classifications.
Has 2, swimming.
But they continue to grow. Like whenever I was in school, baseball only went up to 5. Now it goes up to 6.
I think soccer's only got 3 classifications.
I think you're right. Yeah. Basketball goes up to 6, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it just recently went to 6.
Yeah. Anyway, surprisingly, we have come to the end of our time. If you've made it this far in the episode, thank you so much for joining us. Where the Game Lives On, new episodes every Wednesday, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Time flies sometimes.
I didn't even realize that we were into the episode because normally you're like, hey, welcome to another episode of, and we just started talking.
No, I didn't even get an intro in there, but we'll fix that in post editing a little bit. New episodes every Wednesday. Share with your friends. Leave us a review. Stay up to date with everything going on at the Hall of Fame on social media. Enshrinement coming up here next weekend.
Columbia on Sunday, and we'll be announcing inductees for the St. Louis Enshrinement in November. We'll be announcing those probably early next week. Yeah, absolutely. We'll get links to all those things in the podcast description below. Be sure to follow us, though, on social medias. And we'll see you next time on another episode of Where the Game Lives On.